everybody here. So as people are just joining in, those who just have barely joined in, you can put in the chat maybe a word or two that describes how you're doing today, where you're tuning in from if you would like to. Julie is here with me as my co-partner in crime. Welcome to our September Learning Lunch. I am really excited to be here learning together with you guys this afternoon. I'm excited that we are here with Carla today talking about time, which is fabulous because I don't know how we're at September 6th, like talk about time, just speeding through. So I think this is a very timely time for us to have this conversation. I started my career as a pediatric nurse, but I became really focused on wellness and mental health from navigating my own trauma healing journey. And now I'm really passionate about bringing hope to others and helping them to understand what their bodies are experiencing and what they've experienced inside of themselves so that we can all be moving from survival to creating a life that resonates for us. And I love my work as a trauma educator and coach. I grew up in Southern California. I now live in Mesa, Arizona with my husband. My youngest daughter is a freshman in high school, and we just got a new puppy this last month. So we're a little sleep deprived, but a lot more serotonin going on. I also have 2 adult kids that are studying at ASU, and I am absolutely in love with this stage of mothering. It is the best. As a Mindwell collective, Mindwell started standing for mindful wellness. We have put together these learning lunches just for an ongoing opportunity for us to connect, feel supported, understand healing and wellness on a deeper level. I've noticed even as some of these topics, I have some familiarity with them, but there's something really powerful, I think, about coming together, learning together, and being reminded and hearing something in this stage of where I'm at today that is just a powerful thing that keeps us all moving forward together. I think I speak for the entire Mindwell Collective when I say our favorite part is connecting with you. And we're just really curious and / excited to see this community that we can build together. So I'm just going to take a moment. We've all come from different tasks and responsibilities and possibly commotion to make it here to this moment. Whether you are here with us live in this moment, which I absolutely love, or maybe you're going to tune into the recording, you have still created time to show up here in this moment. So I want to just take this moment and bring us all together. And I will invite you, if you feel comfortable doing so, to just close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath. Just a nice inhale. And as you are exhaling, follow your own pattern on this. As you are exhaling, just imagine the stress can just leave with that exhale. Maybe the need to figure anything out, solve any problems, tend to something else. We can just set that aside for a moment. Believe me when I say it will be there later when we want to pick it up. So for now, we can just set it aside. And for this hour, you can be present here in this space and take the time to take what you are needing from this time today. This time and space has been set aside for connection, compassion, acceptance, and support. And I know that I am so glad that you are here. As you are sitting into this space, continuing to breathe, continuing to bring yourself into this collective, here we are as a collective coming together in this support of one another and this support of learning. I want for you to know that I see you, and I'm glad that you are here. I am going to give you an invitation. Each one of you are coming, maybe needing something specific or something different today. Maybe it's just connection and to be seen. Maybe you are wanting understanding. Maybe you are needing some strategies for how you can organize yourself. Whatever is bringing you here today, I want for you to take a moment. You can open your eyes if you like, or you can keep this time with your eyes closed, but to think about, what do you hope to get out of our time together today? What might be your intention with this hour? Maybe the question is, how do you want to show up in this space? If you want, you can share in the chat or just jot it down or make a mental note of it. What is your intention today? I'm going to share, Camila, I love that you shared with the group an uplift for my day. I love these gatherings. I love them too. Excited to learn from Carla. I love learning from Carla. Carla, you are one of the most skilled teachers that I've had the opportunity to learn from. So I'm excited for that as well. One of my intentions is to show up with an open heart today so that I can be in the moment with Carla and be open to whatever it is I am needing to learn today. And then the creation of this space here for all of us to share and to be heard. And just so that you know for the end, because I always like kind of knowing the end from the beginning a little bit, I want you to know that we will have time to reflect at the end and see how this intention comes full circle at the end in a reflection. So, Judy, my intention is to be fully present and to get a new or fresh perspective. And I always enjoy connecting with others. So I love that. Okay. Any other thoughts? If you want to put that into the chat, you can. I'm just going to transition us right now because I think we're all ready to use this time efficiently. I don't think it's a coincidence that our time has been the most efficient in this learning lunch of all the other lunches because we are talking about time. So I'm feeling personally pretty excited about that. I feel like maybe I'm getting an A so far in this topic. We'll see. So I want to introduce Carla Reeves. Carla is just a phenomenal human. Her life's work, and I loved when I saw this message on your website, Carla, because I just thought, I don't know anything more inspiring than this. Carla's life's work is to ignite possibility and equip people with the mindset and tools to create meaningful, productive, and fulfilling everyday lives. So I'm really excited to introduce you to her work, and I'm going to turn the time over to Carla as she teaches us about minding your time. Welcome, Carla.
Thank you, Michelle. You do get an A. And I'm going to try to present here and see if this works. And share my screen with you all. Let's see if if technology is my friend today. Nope. Okay, we're going to try one more time.
Teamwork makes the dream work. I have so much confidence in you.
Okay, take two. I
Beautiful.
think it's going to work.
Beautiful. Perfect.
That worked. Is it full screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. The power of a moment to just get present. Thank you so much for that, Michelle. That makes such a difference on this call. I feel like every time in any Zoom call or Zoom meeting, like just a moment to get present is so powerful. So thank you. And thank you all for being here and sharing your precious time today. I'm so incredibly grateful. And I want to start with a little story from my life. And for years, and maybe you can relate to this, but for years of my life, I was checking boxes and trying to check the right boxes that were going to lead to this happy, successful, fulfilling life. And I was overworking, I was overextending myself, over delivering, working so hard to get everyone to like me and please everyone else. And I woke up exhausted, over a long period of time. And it was all sort of happening under this illusion that someday I was going to get ahead and someday I was going to have that life that I really, really wanted. And things looked pretty good on the outside. Nobody would have known. Like there was just so much angst inside. And the boxes were checked. I was busy, but ultimately inside I was empty and tired. And my life at that time sort of came crumbling apart. I found myself in the middle of a divorce that I never imagined. And it was a huge, huge wake-up call. I didn't have a clue where to go or what to do. This whole image I had created for my life was kind of falling apart. But there was one thing that I knew in that moment. There was one thing that was clear. And I knew deep in my heart. It makes me emotional because it was the only thing I could really cling on to in that moment. But I knew in my heart there was a different way and that life didn't have to look like this. And I grabbed a hold of that one thing I knew for sure. And I made it my mission to figure out a different way. And that's what I've been doing for the last, gosh, that was like almost 25 years ago. Um, did a lot of that work in my own life. And then 10-ish years ago, I started really helping high and hyper achievers kind of break free of this cycle, to get out of survival so that they could really start to live life with lots more intention. This quote really struck me. When we stop caring about the things we care about, it's a signal that we're too busy. We've let ourselves become consumed by the things that feed the ego but starve the soul. And that's exactly captures the moment that I was in at that time. So our time together today is going to be, we're going to uncover some blind spots that may be derailing your best efforts. We're going to look at places where you can do differently instead of more. And we're going to put some insights into a little mini action plan that you can take away. So I'm going to invite you to engage kind of in this process, if you're willing, in the chat or even out loud. And I'd love for you, if you don't already, to have a pen and paper handy. So in the chat, I want you to just take an inquiry, like, how's your relationship with time right now? Is it on the up and up? Does it feel adversarial, on the fritz, or anything else? Love to see just your in the moment kind of feeling about that. Nice, love that. A little bit of everything. Wish there was more. Yep. Ugh, we can all relate to that at times, right? Awesome. Judy says, right now I'm feeling overall good on the up and up, but I've had to work on this a lot. Totally get that. It always disappears. Yep. Okay. So I want you to take a moment in a minute, and I want you to write a letter to time, and just a really heartfelt, honest letter to time. And I'm gonna read one that, just to kind of stir your thinking, that is really kind of a culmination of a lot of letters that I've seen over the years with my clients. And it goes like this. Dear time, I love you and I hate you. Most of the time, there's not enough of you. You're fleeting. I run to chase you, but I don't find you. You go too quickly. I treasure you, but I resent you at times. I need you. Sincerely, a tired soul. So I'm going to give you just a minute to capture your own letter. Take about 30 more seconds and wind down. Would anybody be willing to share their letter? No pressure, just an invitation. Yeah, Michelle.
Okay, I love how you reminded me how writing helps us to see things we weren't aware of. Mine is short and sweet. Dear time, I don't like being stuck with a certain time, appointments, deadline schedules. I want to flow freely without consideration for you. You feel limiting to me. Michelle.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else willing to share theirs? Yeah, Camille.
Dear time, you are the stuff life is made of. When I slow down, I feel there's plenty of you. But when I feel frantic about getting things done, there's not enough of you. I'd love to respect you more and feel abundant in you. Time abundant. I love to think I have all the time I need to do what I need and want to do today. Love, Camille.
Beautiful. All right, we have time for one more. Anybody else want to share their letter? Yeah, Sarah.
Okay, dear time, where did you go? Why do you hide from me? Why am I scared of you sometimes and other times I want more of you? A whole day to work on my purpose? That's scary. A whole day gone and nothing productive? That's also scary. Am I always working on my purpose? Am I allowed to just enjoy you and my life?
So incredible. Thank you so much for being willing to share out loud. When you guys share, it's like this all comes to life. So beautiful. You can feel so much in all of those letters, right? And I think we can all relate to it. So given this, what I want you to just kind of think about the impact of the way that you're in relationship with time currently. What is the impact on you? And you can pop it in the chat. I know for me, going back to my story, I was stressed. I was overwhelmed. I felt like I was always running. I felt like I was behind and kind of defeated. Any others? Constrained and limited, yeah. All right. So we're talking about time differently. Like what if we could do time differently? And before we go there, I want to kind of walk you through some of the antiquated ideas or approaches that we have to kind of clear out of the way before we can start really doing differently with time. And I read this recently that really kind of was like a wake up, but time management was originally designed as a means of like wage rate setting and time clocks, and not to ever increase the quality of our lives. And so even this idea of time management, I feel like it's kind of antiquated. And it also comes with this sort of seductive promise that sounds like you're going to have more time someday when you figure this all out. And I know in my case, like that hope kept me going and working harder, just hopeful that someday it was going to be different. And yet nothing could be farther from the truth. It's this time management idea was never designed to give us freedom. And so I think that's really important to think about. And what it does is it produces this, what I call your survival model way of doing things. So when we have outdated thinking, and it might be this system within our culture that's outdated, but it also might be just outdated thinking within yourself that drives outdated doing and behaviors and patterns that maybe at one time worked in your life or got you to the level of success in your life that you have now, but it's not going to be the thing that takes you to the next level of success or freedom or fulfillment or what peace, whatever that is for you. And all of this kind of creates this model and operating system that is consistent for producing similar unfulfilling results. So I want you to consider that it's not a time management problem, but it's a thinking problem. And that, back to the story that I shared with you, it was like, if I could just get better, if I could be more organized, that was going to solve things. And when I finally realized and admitted to myself that the boxes weren't leading me to the life I wanted to be living, that was the day things started to change. And I started to take a different approach. And I started to look inside myself at the things I could actually control instead of trying to control everything out here and getting it lined up just so. I worked on getting everything lined up inside. And as I did that, things started to change, and my experience with time started to change. My experience in relationships started to change. And I began to understand for the first time that a deep change in my life was going to require a deep change in my thinking. And the same is true for time. If you want to change the way you're operating with time, you have to examine the way you're thinking about it and how that is impacting everything that you're doing. And I just want you to know you are not trapped by time. And we're going to challenge some of those old thinking patterns to hopefully free you up a little bit today. What I know is that if I can help you think differently about this, that opens up a whole world of possibility. I do have some little time strategies that I can share at the end, but to me, it's like if I can get you thinking slightly different, that's the greatest gift I can give you today. So here are some of the pitfalls. I love all your little emojis, you guys. I'm trying to move all right. 3 thinking pitfalls. Get more done and then you're going to feel better. Anybody relate to that? So for years, and I still have to monitor it, I have felt like I had this little monster on my shoulder that was constantly telling me, you need to work more, you need to work more, you need to do more, there's more to do, work harder, do more. And it's a lie. It's truly a lie. When I work late into the night or I missed dinner with my family when my kids were young or any of that, never made me feel better. Or if I work up until I'm going to sleep, it doesn't make me feel better and I don't feel great the next morning. It's truly a lie. And we'll talk about the truth in a minute. Number 2, get the right strategy and then you're going to get ahead. Learn the right thing. Get the next strategy, learn the next tool, right? Get the next software and then you're going to be better. But if you apply that stuff on top of a faulty thinking foundation, the strategies are awesome, but that faulty thinking will derail you over and over again. And then the last one, get ahead, and then you're going to have time for what matters. And I'm going to tell you a story about that one in a minute, because that's the someday illusion. Kelly, I used to believe the more you get done. Yeah, it does. It's true. Because that, especially, as entrepreneurs, but I think for anyone, that list doesn't stop, right? It just keeps going. Okay. So let's address some of the truths around this and really challenge the lie. And if there's one thing you take away from today, don't believe everything you think. That was one of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got. It's not all true. And when you can start to just question it and go, is that real? Is that true? Is that helping me make, the movement in my life that I really want to be making? The truth is you feel better when you make your well-being or whatever that thing is that matters most to you, when you start to make that a priority. And you get more done when you feel better. Yes, I love the head nods. Number two, get the right strategy, and then you're going to get ahead. And kind of like I said, strategies are great, but if they're on a faulty foundation, it's hard to sustain them. And so they feel elusive, they slip away. This is one of the places that I love to work the most with private clients, because when you start to look at this idea of firing yourself from outdated jobs, I want you to think about, maybe it's not adding something or adding a strategy, but it's actually removing something or eliminating a pattern in your life. This is my favorite place to work. And the things you can be thinking about here are patterns like in my story of like pleasing others, overgiving, overextending yourself. And this doesn't mean that you can't have a huge heart and be of service to people. You absolutely can. But when you're doing that to the detriment of your own well-being, is it serving? You know? And so there's a lot of time, energy to harness in these places where you're maybe over committing to things out of that old ego need that maybe at one time helped you. But this place where you're spending time and energy in outdated jobs and roles is a gold mine for finding extra time and energy to harness. And then the last one, apply different thinking or right thinking or aligned thinking and start to see what happens. Judy, a couple of years ago, I decided to divorce my old self. Yes, I love that, Judy. Sometimes we have to do that, 100%. And yes, it is related to firing yourself from old, outdated jobs and roles. And I think one of the fears that comes up here is that sometimes we're in patterns in relationships where we're overgiving or overextending or taking too much responsibility for others. And we're afraid of changing there because we might lose love or lose a relationship. And I want you to consider that you can start to teach people how to be in relationship with you now in a very loving, kind way. Judy, I love that. You teach that too. Yeah, Judy knows that's possible. Okay, and then the last one, get ahead, and then you're going to have time for what matters. I think this is maybe the one I'm most passionate about, because if you don't know how to carve time for yourself, if you don't know how to make your well-being a priority or your priorities a priority, what makes you think that you're going to know how to do it then, right, out in the future? And I have a story I want to share. So I had a client a number of years ago that came to me and she said, Carla, I just want you to help me get to retirement. She had a big job. She managed like an entire HR department. And she said, I just need to get to retirement so that I can actually do and have time for the things that matter. And at that point in her life, she had a teenage son. She was in a new marriage and she had an elderly mom, and she wasn't spending time on any of those things that were so near and dear to her heart. And I told her, and this was in our introductory conversation, I said, I'm not okay with that, because if we just get you to retirement, you won't know how to flex these muscles then. You'll just still overcommit and overextend and overbook yourself in this new retired land. And so what we did was actually teach her to start to flex those muscles right where she was, so that she could start to live the life she wants to now, because we're not guaranteed. We're not guaranteed 2 years. We're not guaranteed the future. And if you don't know how to use these muscles, you won't know then. And so this is so near and dear to my heart. And you can actually start to build a life that you like right here and now instead of waiting. So, all right, there's another way. And kind of like I said earlier, it's a deep change in the way that we experience time requires a deep change in the way that we think about it. So just to kind of get you thinking more expansively, how do we think differently? I loved this quote. By contrast, anti-time management means you control your time, you create time, you create space, and you make choices. And that's where your power lives. One of the things I've noticed in my life, and maybe you guys have too, is when you get really present, time is more expansive. Has anybody ever felt that? Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, like if I get present and I'm like, pay attention to 3 minutes of time, it is so long. And I can actually get quite a bit done in 3 minutes of time. So it really, like, I want you to just start to play with this and play with the innate powers you have to really stretch time. One of the, there's an author called Sark, and she used to say, like, invite the time stretcher in. And so anytime I go be with my family, like for a weekend, and I'm worried that I don't have enough time with them, I invite the time stretcher in and I say, like, I just like create that there's going to be plenty of time for all of the things and all the moments that are just going to fill all of us up. And I mean, almost every time I feel like that time stretcher come in, it's like an intention that Michelle had us do in the beginning of the call. So it's a real deal. Okay. So as you begin to think differently, I want you to take a minute to create a new letter to time. And with this idea of time used in a different or right way is your ultimate partner in creating the, life you want. So anyone have any questions before we take a minute? Okay. Take another 30 seconds and wind down. Okay, while you're finishing up, I want to circle back to something that I forgot to say, which is One of the reasons I started teaching about time was because over lots of years of coaching individuals, I discovered that time was like the number one excuse for not getting to the things that really deeply mattered to them. And so I knew it was important to really address time because it can be such a barrier, and it's so justifiable, right? And so I wanted to share that. I also wanted to share that thinking about time like you have a relationship with it actually gives you so much power to really look at the quality of it and have some places where you could start to shift. Okay, so anyone want to share their new letter? Somebody, yeah, Sarah, go for it.
Okay, this was so fun. I love this. I've never thought about personifying time before. So thank you for this
You're welcome.
mind stretching thing. Okay. This time I wrote, "Dear time, I'm so sorry I waste you, I blame you, I ignore you, I rush you, I fear you. Now I see I can create you and stretch you, indulge in you, and be present with you. You are always there. You are dependable. You never change. You are reliable. Thank you for not giving up on me. I will be present with you in the eternal now."
So beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For
Thank you.
sharing.
My goodness. I love this so
So
much.
beautiful. Anybody else want to share theirs? Camille, go for it.
Mine's short. Dear time, thank you for stretching out and expanding
Mhm.
and giving me all that I need. I'm grateful that you are always there for all my most important moments. Love, Camille.
So good. What if you guys read these every morning? Like just really read it every day to just see what starts to shift. When I first started doing this, one of the things I did was started to change the way that I spoke about time. So prior to, I would always say, "Oh, I'm so busy. I'm too busy. I don't have time." I just started eliminating those phrases from my vocabulary. And I believe that your words create your world. And so just shifting your language and the way that you think about it and speak about it can be really powerful. And things will open up from there. Like you will start to see different ideas. You will start to see different approaches to doing this. So, and then this idea, Sarah, you mentioned of personifying time. This came from years ago. I went to an intensive for my business, and they had us do this with money. They had us write a letter to money, and we had to walk around the room and actually share our letter, read it out loud to a stranger, and pretend that they were money. Like you were talking to money and you were telling money how you felt. And I had tears just pouring down my face as I read this letter to this complete stranger. And it was kind of life altering. And so that's kind of how I got this idea. Oh, we could do this with time. Like it's the same kind of thing. So if you feel inspired to read this to somebody later, your original letter, that might be powerful too. Okay, I think we have time for one more letter if anybody's excited to share theirs.
I'll go ahead.
Kelly, yeah.
Dear time, I always have enough time to accomplish all I am meant to. You always move along quickly when my soul needs it. You always work in my favor for the best and highest good for me and all involved. God's timing is always perfect time.
So good. So beautiful. Thank you all for sharing your letters. Okay. So I want to give you this little time differently checklist, and you can either capture a little screenshot, or Michelle, if there's a way to send this out after, I'm happy to share the slides. Okay. Just quickly, empty the mental trash daily. This is a daily practice. Journaling is a huge part of my life and the work I do with people, and it's so important. That mental trash can build up overnight, and you can forget everything you got inspired about today. And so if you just take a minute, like Michelle was saying, just take a minute to empty what's on your brain and then read that new letter that you wrote. That might take less than 5 minutes of your time to really shift the quality of your day. Release pressure, apply love. That's always a prescription that I give people, especially high and hyperachievers. Change your dance. And that really just means do anything different, right? We know that doing the same thing is just going to create the same results, or falling into those old patterns that we're used to. Those we know produce kind of the same unfulfilling results. So doing anything slightly different can be really powerful. Take new inventories. And what I mean by that is take stock at the end of the day of what you did get done. It's like gravity. We just get focused on what we didn't do. But when you actually stop and look, there's a lot of things you did do. And one of my favorite exercises with people is to say, what were your favorite standout moments, from the last week or even day? And when people start to talk about their favorite moments, they're never things that have to do with money, achievements, checklists, any of that. And so that's super powerful. So if you want to build a life with more of those moments, you've got to make sure you're building them into your day so that there's space for those to happen. Oh gosh, I have a spelling issue on my slides again. Let your commitments lead. And this just means, like, for years of my life, in that first story, I just felt at the mercy of life. And it was just like, I was just blowing with the wind of whatever was happening. And I didn't know the power of really knowing, just choosing 5 big rocks or 3 big rocks in your life, like just having those in front of you and starting to align your actions in your day to that can completely change the momentum and sort of course of what you're doing. And then lastly, I once heard that consistency is sexy. So take consistent, aligned actions. And aligned means just aligned to that vision you have, or that project you have, or that mission you have, or those commitments. So that's your differently checklist. Okay, so I want you to take a minute to capture a little mini action plan for yourself based on what you personally felt today. What did you hear for yourself? What do you feel inspired around? And how can you make that tangible and actionable? This idea of starting with who you want to be in the future, or like that vision you have for your life, and then making choices that align to that. So I'll give you a minute to do that. Kelly, I love the to-done list. So good. That's definitely a new inventory. Okay, Michelle, we could have people share a couple of their action takeaways. Is this a good time to do that? And then I'll just close real quickly.
No, and in fact, I feel like we've kind of combined, because one of the things we do with our closing is kind of have a reflection. What do we want to take forward? Which I think is what we're doing here. So let's go ahead and take some space for people to share. You can direct that, and then you can punt it back to me whenever you're done. There's no rush.
Okay, that sounds perfect. Okay. So anyone want to share their mini action plan? Or anything you're sort of taking away is great too.
I'm good to share.
Yeah, Sarah.
Share. Okay. I mean, basically, it's just a summary of my favorite points that you made. So remember to invite time stretching angels in, or remember that I'm a time stretcher. However that works, I love that. Read my letter to time every day. Remember, I always have enough time for the things that matter if I put them first. I don't know if you said that, but that's kind of what came to my head. And then change my language about time and make a to-done list. So
Love that. Love that. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, all of you.
you're welcome.
Anybody? Yeah, Judy, go for it.
Okay. Well, I have to talk about time as my partner in relationship because like I'm a relationship healer. So like
I love that for
I
you.
think to up level my relationship with time and make time my partner, I feel like is going to be, I don't like maybe even a game changer for me. I mean, even though I started this with saying that I was like on the up and up with time, it's still amazing how I always learn something from these learning lunches, even when I feel like I'm okay. Cause like that's still like I still feel like I'm up leveling based off of this input. So yeah, it's hard to put into words though. But like just making time my partner, like the time stretching thing for sure. I mean, I feel like that's just the concept alone is going to change how I do things or be, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. I love that so much for you. Like it's such a natural extension of what you do and just kind of transferring it over here. So beautiful.
Right?
Yeah,
Yes. Thank you.
you're welcome. Anybody else want to share their action? All right.
Can you hear me? I don't
Yes.
know.
Yes, Carolyn.
Well, I like the thing that I think I'm doing right now is overextending and overgiving and not finding and taking time for the things that I love. And so I also wrote, I need to get back to the gratitude journal. And then I love the favorite moments idea rather than just gratitude. So what was my favorite moments today? And I think that will help me like really get a better picture of what moments I want to keep recreating.
Love that. I love that. And something you said, around the overextending. One thing I'll have my clients kind of do is I have them think about their domain of responsibility, and you can kind of draw it out in like circles, like a small circle, and you list the things that you're actually responsible for, which is, things like your thinking and your perception and your choices and your mood and your energy and things like, your children, if you have young children, your home, like all that kind of stuff. And then in the outer circle, you draw a circle on the outside of that, and you put in all the other places where you're traveling outside of your domain. So I find especially for women, and I think it's true for men too, but often for women especially, we've got our arms, if you think of like an octopus, we've got our arms out in all kinds of places that are not ours to manage. And this is where you can find so much time and energy to harness. So I'm glad that you brought that up, Carolyn.
Thank you. Thanks for your thoughts.
Yeah, and I love your takeaway. And sometimes, maybe not sometimes, maybe all the time, it like requires courage. So a lot of times people like, we think we need more clarity or to figure something out when really it's a courage issue. And you can start to practice and be courageous with just 20 seconds of courage, just in one little moment. It doesn't have to be this big swooping change in your life. So I encourage you to play with just the moments. Okay. Let's see. Lastly, I have a podcast there are episodes on time on my podcast. And so if you like what you're hearing today, you'll find more episodes there. Michelle Jones is on my podcast. Camille Smith has an episode who's here with us today. Judy's going to be coming on soon. So there's lots of fun stuff out there to find, and you can scan that QR code if you want to link right to it, but you can also search for it. And then lastly, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for playing, like sharing and really taking this. And, Judy, like even you, I've been there where it's like, oh, I already know this, or I've learned this, and you can kind of tune out. And I acknowledge you for playing and showing up and letting it impact you. So this quote I just especially loved. Time is an expression of love. Whether you're spending time, investing time, or sacrificing time, whether it's quality time or quantity time, love shows up by the way you spend your time. So thank you so much, Michelle. Back to you.
Thank you. I'm going to have you exit from present mode.
Yes.
So we can see each other like a little bit bigger again. I love this so much. One of the things that I wrote down was that I want to remember to be in the moment when I'm in my choice. Like if this is where I'm then I'm going to be here with my choice of what I'm choosing. And so I love everything about that. And I've been playing with the magic of stretching time, but I've never just called it being a time stretcher. So I'm just claiming that as one of my powers that I have, is to be a time stretcher. We do have
that.
If anybody has a question for Carla, we already did our reflection. Does anybody have anything that they want to bring to the table as one of the perks of being here live? I feel like you did such an amazing job of being so, like, bringing a lot of clarity to these thoughts that it is just feels like a very intuitive step forward for all of us.
So glad.
Let's see. Thank you for trusting us with your time today. Carla, other than your podcast, which is called Differently, where else can people connect with you?
Just carlareeves.com.
Beautiful.
And then I am on LinkedIn, but no other social media at this time.
Okay. Beautiful. And next month, just something to look ahead to, we're going to be working with Camille talking about healing through movement. So I'm really excited about that for next month. Kind of create a beautiful time stretching there in that. And so this will conclude our September Learning Lunch, everyone. One of the things I'm becoming more and more convinced of is that we each need each other. And I love having this hour together each month to share and learn together with each one of you. So thank you for your time.